Welcome to Consulting Mastery, where we help B2B consultants master the business of consulting. I'm Carrie.
And I'm Ahmed. Join us as we explore the art of delivering outstanding client value, earning a higher income, and thriving in today's marketplace. What do you say to a client who is kind of at the downward part of the momentum cycle, right? They're in the valley. They're at that low point of the roller coaster, the revenue roller coaster. And money's not coming in to the extent that they want it to, and the deals aren't closing, and the opportunities are kind of drying up, and they're starting to feel like their back's against the wall. And they go, what do I do? What do I do, Carrie?
I just say, suck it up and move on. No, I don't say that. The first thing I say is congratulations and welcome, because this is a place where everybody ends up at some point. And I think it's useful to understand that it's not unique. And if you are somebody who is, either just launching your business, or you've had a, say a corporate career previously where things are relatively even, this can feel like an isolating experience that's only ever happened to you, and it can feel debilitating. So first thing is exactly that. Welcome and congratulations, because quite frankly, if this is the place you've landed, it means that you are doing the thing, you are building the business, and you are testing your limits. You can't stop there though, because it's not going to leave anyone where they need to be. So
yeah, but I think that's just that's an important starting point, right?
Yeah.
And I know when I was going through some of these lulls, and continue to, lulls never end, right? Like certainly you could argue that with growth, the existential nature of the lulls tends to taper off a little bit, right? But you're going to have ups and downs. Like I don't, and this is how I make myself feel better about it. Right? I don't know of a business where revenue always goes up and to the right on the chart. Like it's not a thing, right? Like ups and downs, because marketing is not perfect and sales isn't perfect. And for reasons we've discussed previously, the client's timing isn't always perfect. People don't buy when you want them to buy all the time, right? So you're going to have these ups and downs. And I think that's just, to your point, it's a rite of passage. It's normal. What you're experiencing is normal. You're not abnormal. You're not a failure. This is just what you signed up for when you decided to be a business owner, and that's okay.
Yeah. And what's interesting is it also happens sometimes later than you think. So you may feel like you've got that figured out. Yeah, I can weather the roller coaster. It's fine. But that's because the roller coaster hasn't maybe dipped to the point where it is now, or, looking forward, projecting, you're not seeing the same kind of picture as you used to. So I think it's also important, as you said, right, to recognize it can happen anytime. So fair enough, we're here. Now the question is, how do you navigate through it? Because that's what it really is, right? This isn't about ignoring it or kind of, just getting out of it or pretending it's not happening. The question is, how do you navigate through it? And how do you navigate through it in a way that continues to build your skill set and build your resilience? Because that's the other benefit that comes out of this. People don't necessarily want to hear that when they're in the middle of it, but recognizing that you will navigate the low, that you'll navigate the dip, that you will find your way out the other side, even if it looks nothing like you thought it was going to. That in and of itself, incredible benefit that you will certainly end up with as you work your way through this.
Well, I think you have to have the, unwavering belief that things are going to be okay, and not just okay, they're going to be better than they were. And I'm reminded of a client who I won't name for confidentiality's sake, who started working with us at the typical time, right? Lost a well client, right? Just lost a well client that was, I think, like 80% of her revenue. And she started working with us. And I remember the conversations that we had on the mindset call on Mondays, right? It's really hard. And she had to lay people off. She'd like let go of staff. And some of those staff were family members. And like, it was really emotionally difficult. This client she'd been working with for years. It was a long-standing relationship, right? And all of a sudden and it was abrupt. It wasn't like a gradual thing. All of a sudden, gone. Right, massive changes to the business. And as an action taker, she had enrolled with us amidst this change, right? Which is what saved her ultimately, because we helped her build out a new offer. She felt really, really good about the new offer. She replaced the revenue in short order. She had she felt better about her business. She felt more confident in the offer. There were lots of things with that old relationship that were just not serving her, and she rid herself of that and ultimately rebuilt her business and couldn't have been happier with the new outcome, and was ultimately grateful for the situation of losing the whale client. And so I think the thing is, we can't always see this when we're in it, right? She couldn't see it when she was in it, but she took action. She engaged with us. She did the work. She went out to the market. She built out a new offer, etc. And so I think you have to just kind of have, first and foremost, before we get into any kind of tactical, strategic, issues, you've got to have unwavering confidence that as long as I actually take action on this, right? If you sit around and do nothing, that's different, right? But if I take productive action, make the right moves, I'm going to be better off. And my hope is you can look at examples of that in your life. I mean, if you have examples in your business, that's great. Over time, you certainly will. But certainly think of any examples in your life where you thought that it was rock bottom, things were really hard, you weren't sure what was going to happen. And I can promise you, there are examples where things worked out perfectly fine in ways that you couldn't have even, visualized. And you got to believe that's going to happen again.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you're really illustrating are the two things that you need to pay attention to, focus on, and deal with in a really intentional way when you know that you hit this kind of a dip, right? When your motivation is flagging, when you're feeling maybe a little desperate, when that churning in your stomach is happening far more often than you want it to. And the first is really digging into and thinking about and managing your mindset. And the second is taking good action, otherwise known as the next best step, because you may not be super clear on everything that's going to get you out of this slump that you're in or that you feel like you're in. So let's talk first about the mindset piece, because without that, you're going to have a hard time moving forward. And I want to be careful here because I think there's a lot of, sentiment out there in the world. Go anywhere on social media and you're going to see a whole bunch of, positive thinking mumbo jumbo, some of which is really useful and helpful, and some of it that is from useless to damaging, quite frankly, because having someone just tell you that you need to feel more positive about something, right? Don't let it get you down, is not only bad advice, but also then compounds because it makes you feel bad about the fact that you feel bad in the first place. And none of that's going to help you. So let's talk about some of the concrete steps that we, recommend, advise, support people through when they're in this kind of slump. What's your favorite one?
For me, it comes down to not merely tolerating or accepting your circumstances, but embracing your circumstances. For me, that's, I think, the most important thing. Because if you just, if you tolerate or accept your circumstances, it's like, yeah, this is really frustrating and annoying, and I don't want things to be like this, but I'm going to have to just get through it. And that's exactly what will happen, is you'll just get through it. My personal belief is that every situation that you're in, you're in that situation for a reason. Like, you're being taught a lesson, and problems will persist until you learn the lessons they were meant to teach you. So the only way to learn from the situation and to get to the other side of it is to embrace it and actually see it as a good thing, actually see it as a positive. And I think you do that by identifying the lessons that you're going to learn through the experience. So, example, last year, we may have talked about this in the show, I don't remember, we deliberately shrunk the business down by about 30%, give or take. And it made sense. It was the right decision. I was a little bit kind of funny about it, energetically, because I thought, well, who does this, right? Is this failure? It didn't feel right. We'd always grown up until then, right? And this is our first time deciding, no, we're going to actually just get a little bit smaller. And, the way I rationalized it was, to our earlier point, right? I don't know of a business that hasn't had to constrain at some point. A successful business, right? And immature business that's just starting, yeah, sure, grow, fine, right? But you get to a level of maturity where I don't know of a business that gets to that level of maturity and hasn't had to make decisions to lay people off or cut advertising spend or shrink and constrain and then regroup so they can build again. I don't know of a business that didn't have to do that. So it became a rite of passage. I saw it as, it's not what I necessarily wanted for the business, but I saw it as an opportunity to learn the skills required in that season. And that would make me stronger as an entrepreneur and us stronger as a team ultimately, right? So that was my way of reframing, embracing the circumstances and owning them and then working through them. I think the same can be said about the recession, right? If that is what we're ultimately going to find ourselves in, my attitude is bring it on. Like, I want those skills. I want to, 12 to 24 months from now, be able to talk about what I learned running my business and hopefully growing my business through a recession. That's only going to happen not if I tolerate it, but if I embrace it.
Mhm. Yeah, and I was going to talk about one of my favorite tactics, but I'm going to switch it up because you said something that is making me think about something different, which is really getting clear about your definition of the word failure. So you said, like, is this failure, right? What is failure? And the more people I talk to about this and who are going through this kind of slump and having these feelings, a lot of it is because they feel like they're failing. And what I think is really interesting about that is what definition of failure you're using that leads you to believe that because your business is, not necessarily flush with clients at the moment, or things are not turning out the way that you thought they would or wanted them to, that means that you have failed. To me, failure is really about not putting yourself into the situations and scenarios where you're going to learn and grow and develop. And knowing that you can't control everything in your business, it's frankly kind of self-centered to decide that you failed because you happen to end up in a certain place. And I would also suggest that if someone else related to you the exact same scenario and said, "Do you think I'm a failure?" Your answer would be no, not at all. And so the challenge I would throw out is to just get really clear on what does failure really mean to you? Not the superficial failure, like I wanted to make $1 million and we only made 800,000 and I failed to hit a target. But as a human, as an entrepreneur, as a consultant, what does it really mean for you to fail? And my guess would be, and it's an educated guess, having had this conversation many times, that it has nothing to do with, the money or the trajectory of your business. It's much more about how you move through the world, right? How you up your skills, how you find ways to solve problems. You didn't get into this because it's easy. So, quite frankly, a failure is putting yourself in a position where you're not being hit with challenges.
Yeah, it's interesting. We're on the back of, at the time of this recording at least, the NHL playoffs just finished, the NBA playoffs just finished, right? Basketball and hockey. And, one of the things I always find really interesting from watching this process is it takes a lot of effort to get to the finish line. Like the folks that got to the NBA finals or the NHL Stanley Cup finals, like it's a grind to get to the end. And then you lose.
Mhm.
The Florida Panthers just lost, right? And and I remember the goalie, and when they made the Stanley Cup Finals, the goalie was literally in tears because he'd never made it to the finals before. He's a veteran, highest paid goalie in the league, right? Never in tears, and then they got basically destroyed in the finals, right? That's hard, right? Now, is that failure? In some respects, you could argue it is. Is that professional athlete, that entire team, and goalie included, do they see that as a categorical, colossal, like ultimate failure? on their resume that's going to prevent them from picking themselves up and trying again next year? No, because they're professionals, right? And yeah, they're going to take that off the chin. They're going to think about that in the offseason. It's going to hurt. It's going to sting. And they're going to be right back in training camp come August, come September, ready to do it all over again. Like, to me, that's the mark of a professional. Is a failure is, small case F failure. We didn't make it this time. There's always next time. There's always next quarter. There's always next month. There's always next year. And I think if you look at anybody who's achieved anything in business, sports, athletics, etc., nobody succeeded on their first try. They had to go through a series of lowercase f failures, learn from them to ultimately achieve success.